Okay, guys, so I'm finished moving fish around. So I wanted to give you guys an update. The goldfish and the white cloud minnows are in here. Um, can't really see them great, but they're in there. I'm gonna take the top off there. You can see them down there swimming. Um, so they're at the bottom. The water might be a little bit cold, but they'll get used to it. Um, as you can see, I ran some carbon through before I put them in there in case there's any impurities in the water. I always run carbon um, on occasion outside. Like I'll put the carbon in there like once every couple days, just to get any impurities out of the air, out of the water that comes in, through the air. Usually, um, when that happens, it's they're not used to that because they're in fish tanks downstairs. So any impurities that come into the water, I like to just put some carbon in there, run it overnight, and then take it out in the morning. As long as you got your good beneficial bacteria in your rocks or whatever. I use lava rock and regular rocks, pea pebbles. So as you can see, the big goldfish are down there. Um, it's still going to get a little bit cold this weekend or next weekend, but I still feel pretty good that it's going to be actually warmer out here. Actually, it was warmer downstairs than it is out here, but it'll get warmer. Oh no, it was the other way around. Yeah, it's actually warmer out here than it was downstairs, which is a good thing. Uh, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm not going to get into the 30s anymore. So if I'm in the high 40s, I should be okay. It'll balance itself out. Usually, when it's 40 during the day, 60 at night, it evens out to about 60 degrees or so, especially during the summertime when you get a little more hot air. So those goldfish are moved. I want to show you what I did downstairs, and I want to give you a um, little advice on fish keeping. So let me pop downstairs and show you guys. This is going to be a quick video. I just want to show you. I told you what the plans were, and I actually did it in within 2 days. All right, so hold on one second. Let me get downstairs. Okay, guys. As you can see, we moved the sicklers into the 20-gallon. These are the polar convicts. You can see them better now. You see how big they got. There's a baby in there still. He hasn't grown. Probably getting picked on and wasn't eating. So hopefully he'll get a little more space to hide. As you can see, he's really small. And I got the other African cichlids back there. He's still kind of stressed out, but we're gonna put them all together, see if I can get them to last. I really don't want to be running all these tanks if I don't need to. Pretty much have one fish in every tank. So we pretty much worked on getting that taken care of. Like I said, I don't like that in my fish room. I'd rather have, um, you know, multiple fishing tanks. This way, I'm not wasting space and wasting electricity. Um, these lights can be turned off. This is the day I fast my fish. I do want to keep the lights on for their new habitats. So on a 20-gallon, I left it alone. I broke this tank down, um, and then this tank here, they're broken down. So and this one, all three of these are broken down. There's still a fish in there. He's quarantining still. Um, but this is just snails. There's snails in here, so I'm going to keep some oxygen in there. You can see I'm running the sponge filter still. Sponge in there, and not in here, but in there, and in there. So, like I said, I broke these tanks down. Uh, you know, this tank is doing pretty good with the snails. Look at all the snails on top. I really don't have any oxygen in the tank. I probably could put oxygen in there, but every single tank has a backup pump, backup filter or sponge filter or some kind of air in case I lose electricity. I got these, as you guys know, those are battery backups, pumps. If my pumps ever fail or the power goes out, I use that. I can just hook up whatever hose I want to those pumps. So I was getting a kick out of this plant, guys. Look at this plant. Still growing. We'll let it keep growing. It's got flowers on it. You can see. I'm not even sure what the hell the name of the plant's called, but it's growing like crazy. But we're going to keep it growing. Might as well. Extra polyfill back there, as you can see. Anyway, so I moved these Pleiades into here. You're probably not going to see them. They got more room in there now, so you can't really see where they are. It looks like they're hiding somewhere. They're still getting used to it, so I don't really see them in there. But I did see them before, and it's funny because when I took them out of there, you can't really see them in there. But it's good. It's good for them because they got more room now. And the platies actually there's one right there hiding in the Java moss. If you look real close, they're all hiding in the Java moss. As you can see, the babies. There's another baby in there. That one right there was just born. So there's like 2 babies in there now. Hopefully I got them all out of there. But they're moved down here. This tank is not running. There's a filter in there, but there's no heater. That one's not running, and that one's not running. The heater's all off. That one's gonna be next once I get that fish quarantined. I will keep these tanks on the pump, and eventually, if I get more fish, I could always, either if I want to breed or if I want to quarantine them. I got these set up, aren't plugged in, but I know where the plugs are, and that's pretty much it. Like I said, I got these lights off for a reason, and I just saw some water dripping over here. I want to make sure it's not going on the plug. Yeah, it is. Don't know why. Probably spilled some water there, but it's always good to have your plugs hanging down like that, so the water doesn't. I always keep my plugs above the water. If I don't, the plugs are, so you can see the plugs kind of got that wire, kind of like that loop. That helps prevent any water leaking into the electrical sockets. So looks like it's leaking. Don't know where. Probably got some water out of there. Probably got some water, but I definitely don't want that to go into the filter. But yeah, I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I think it's dripping down. But it might have spilled some water in there, and it's just spilling down. That's what I think it is. But yeah, you always want to loop your wires. And in the garage, you see everyone keeps complaining about how I have all my wires hanging up above, so you can see it. But that's the best way to keep your wires, because you don't want any water getting into those wires. And if you have a problem with your plugs, you can't see it if it's on the ground. So I always keep my plugs above and or behind the filters, or where they're looped too. So if I have something above, I try to plug it in beneath it, behind the water. So, or try to keep everything above. You know what I mean? Try to keep, if you're gonna put it above, that's what I was trying to say. If you're gonna keep it above, make sure you keep the wires behind where it gets wet. Anyway, those are a couple tips. But yeah, so we did 3 changes. The platies went into there. Those polar convicts went into here. This African cichlid that was in there, he's in there too. He's still hiding back there. I'm hoping that he gets a little acclimated, because I know he's stressed out. Temperature's good, 79. So, in saying that, we all have everything that we needed, that we wanted to do. Obviously, if we get bigger tanks, this will clear up. If I get a 125, I'll be able to move him, be able to break down that 10 gallon, which could be used for something else. These Severums will be moved. When we get them a little bigger, I'll move them eventually into the angelfish tank, and then I can free up and move some fish from upstairs down here, or whatever. We can move some stuff around. I'd rather not have like I said, I'm trying to avoid the one fish in every tank. But the purpose of getting a pump to run all these filters was so I could have these small tanks, and I could eventually breed. I want to do axolotls down here. I want to do some other stuff. It's cold enough down here. So anyway, so you can see everybody move now. The one thing I wanted to remind you guys, when you're moving fish around, your best tool is to have a test kit. Okay. Now I know I did a bunch of water changes down here, but I've been having some problem with the pH in this water, in this area. So instead of me messing around with the pH, I always test it when I'm moving fish around. And you want to make sure that all the tanks are similar. The water is similar. You know what I mean? So you don't want to have You can see these guys already going at each other. I try to do this, get a bigger tank, so they would stop doing this. But they may not stop doing it. I might have to get a bigger tank than that. And like I said, maybe move them into here eventually, and then move the smaller fish in here. That's what we're planning to do. But I wanted to get them a little extra space. Anyway, you got to make sure the water quality is right before you put the fish in there. I cycle, I have cycled media already that I just put in the tank. So if I'm, and this tank was already had cycled media in there already because I had the sponge filter. I had a bunch of fish in there, so that tank is already cycled. I know that. The only problem I have and is with this tank and a couple of the smaller tanks. I was having a problem with the pH. Believe it or not, I don't know why. Um, I do water changes, but I think it's mostly because the water I have is got low pH. That's what I had some problem with the guppy tank at one point. So what I did if you guys ever run into a problem like this, and I don't recommend this on every single tank, or if you test your water and everything comes out fine, you have no ammonia, nothing, and you're cycled good, and your pH still low because the pH out of the tap is low. Your best tool is baking soda. Now, they recommend 1 teaspoon every 5 gallons. I do not use that much. I use a quarter of a teaspoon for every 5 gallons. Okay, sometimes a half teaspoon, depending on how low it is. But you got to be careful. You don't want to adjust it too much where the fish are going to get, you know, they're going to get crazy. These two tanks, this one here and this one, both had low pH. So what I did is when I moved the fish, this tank wasn't too bad, but it was low. That I don't want it to be that low. So what I did is before I moved them down there, I put some baking soda in there and make sure the pH is right. Tested it. It was about 7.0, maybe a little bit less, 6.8. And I acclimated the fish. So I took these fish out of there, put them in a bucket with that water, with the water from that tank, and then I eventually put, I drip acclimated all the water out of that tank into their bucket. I use a bucket like that. You don't want to just shock the fish and throw a bunch of baking soda in there. Just make sure you do it carefully. But you can adjust pH with baking soda, but I do recommend if you're going to do it that way. Now in this tank I don't have it because this tank was already established and I didn't have any problem with the cycle or anything, or I didn't have any problem with the pH. It was a little bit low. It's like 6.4. I wanted to get it like 6.8, so I added like a quarter of a teaspoon, and I got a little bit higher. So it's about 6.8 now, which is where I want it. And that one right there is 6.8 too. And like I said, make sure your cycle's good. Make sure your ammonia's good. No nitrates, no nitrites, all that good stuff. You always want to test everything. I had my other test kit upstairs, but I used the pH test kit just to make sure that the pH is stable. And then what I usually do is whenever I get the pH to be stable, I get the baggie from the home goods store or whatever. They sell these little baggies if you're gonna do like stuff for like a wedding. If you do favors, you can get these little mesh bags, and I put some crushed coral in every single one of these tanks to stabilize the pH, so the pH doesn't go lower. So that's what I do in case of that happening. So we definitely fixed the problem now, and like I said, I'll keep the pH tester down here. I'll keep the baking soda down here in case I do need it. And if we run into another problem, then we'll have to check and do a water change and then see why that pH is going lower. Now, like I said, I don't want to give you wrong information. I know most guys don't like doing that. They like to keep their water stable. A lot of times, like this tanks upstairs, I have no problem because I do water changes a lot. So they're always doing water changes. Sometimes these smaller tanks, when you just top it off, all the time, and you top it off from the tap, the pH gets lower. That's what happens. In that case, you want to make sure that you have baking soda on hand. Don't use a lot. I use like quarter of the recommendation, and then check your pH. Make sure you check all your parameters, though. Make sure you're, like I said, pH, nitrates, nitrites, and ammonia, all on your cycle. Okay? Because even if you have established tanks like this or this, you could crash your cycle if you don't, say if you don't take care of your water. or you do too much water change, or whatever the case may be. If you take, say, I always have 2 filters in there, but if you take too much media out, you could also mess up your cycle too. So just make sure you're checking all your water. If your water is good and you want to just tinker with your pH, you can use baking soda. But like I said, don't use a lot. That's the update, guys. That's it for now. And hopefully we'll get a 125 and I can move more fish. But as of right now, we shut down 4 tanks. Actually, there's 7 tanks shut down. We're just leaving them on the pump for now until we decide what we always want to keep the water cycled in case we get more fish. And it's not doing any harm to run these tanks off the pump anyway. I do have some hanging back filters that I keep with dirty fish, like the puffers. The goldfish were dirty, but I took that one out. The polar convicts were dirty. I kept that one in there for the platies because they're gonna have babies. So pretty much run everything else on the pump. All right, guys. Till next time, remember, you can't own them, rehome them. Always have the best setup for your fish. Make sure you check your parameters, take care of your fish, and if you have to fast to make your tanks cleaner, there's no worry about that. You could feed your fish. I feed my fish 4 times a week, so I skip 3 days. All right. Like I said, till next time, guys. We'll see you. Have a great day.